Northwestern seems to be on kind of a surge, what everybody thought they were. What have you seen out of them in their improved play the last couple of weeks?
Well, I think Dempsey is playing really well. He's made a difference, I think. It changes the dynamic of their team. Gives them another driver, another scorer, another guy that can go get his own shot, makes him quicker. I think Hearn has really stepped his game up. I've been really impressed with him. I think Ola, they're using him more. He's doing more things. He's coming around. You know, he's young. Early in the year, he was finding his way. Now he's been through it. He's playing a lot better. So I think, you know, to a man, I think Swapshire, you know, it takes a little bit of time to learn this offense. And as the season went on, now he's got it. You know, he's really playing well. So, I mean, they've got a good team. I mean, they make threes, they make plays, they guard you. And it's always a tough game to play.
You guys held them to 15 points in the first half last time. If you pull some of that tape to show the guys this week what they did well.
Yeah, I mean, we played them, it's about as well as we played defensively against anybody. So we're going to need another effort like that.
Do you have to say anything to the team to remind them, hey, it's not going to be as, I wouldn't say easy, but
I would,
comfortable?
You know, I mean, we're going to tell them what they need to do. You know, I wouldn't think that we'd have to say anything special. You know, they're going to watch and they're going to look at, you know, how they played against Purdue, for example. I mean, they played as well against them as any team I've seen all year long in that game. And they played well against a lot of other people. They beat Baylor on the road. So I mean, this is a team that can score. They've got enough experience and they've got enough weapons to beat anybody in our league.
Coach, Devin has struggled the last couple of games. Have you thought about making any changes? Or you
No.
Your team's been through a tough road trip. Where do you think they are mentally after those two games? You know, and is this a test of their mental toughness as you go into the next game coming off those?
You know, Rick, I think they're probably about where you'd think they'd be. You know, they know that we're playing well. They know that we're playing with, I think, great competitive instincts. We're making a lot of really good plays. We're making some mistakes. We're not executing at times. We've got different people stepping up, and you know, we're not shooting the ball that well. You know, so that's a problem. You know, you're going to be in, and if you battle, you can stay in games when you're not shooting it well. Because if you're not shooting it well, and you soften up, then you're going to get drilled. So I mean, they're showing a lot of fight in that respect. And then now we just have to be able to play better, you know, in the last couple minutes, you know, because, you know, I mean, you say what you want. I mean, the shot that goes in, I mean, hits the rim 3 times, and the shot that Austin Hollands hit, I mean, at some point you got to give the other team some credit. I mean, they're making some plays. We're in their face, and you got to give that team credit.
Has this team made progress in the mental toughness area,
No
especially
question.
since the Michigan game?
No question. You know, and even in that game, you know, we were not tough at the end with our execution, but it's a 40-minute game. There's a reason why we were up 3 with a minute to go. There's a reason why we were tied, you know, with 40 seconds to go. You know, we're still right there against, you know, one of the top 10 teams in the country, so we're not that far.
Going back to Devin, after the Minnesota game, you talked about how you felt he was being tentative. And after
I didn't think he was tentative at all against Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
He's usually not tentative. I mean, he was a little bit tentative, I thought, against Minnesota, but he was not tentative against Wisconsin at all.
What about during practices throughout the week?
No, he's always good there.
This team has gotten up off the mat time after time after time. Even the other night, tough environment, you're down 11 first half, just keep putting it together. But how often can you guys keep doing that and not get that carrot at the end of the game, you know?
I don't know. We just got to keep fighting. You know, go to the next game and try to beat that team. You know, you can't look 5 games down the road and say, boy, I hope something good happens. You got to make something good happen on Saturday.
In the last few minutes of those games, have you noticed your players kind of pressing a little bit?
No. not at all. You know, when Marble made the drive against Purdue, he'd make that shot 8 times out of 10, typically. He made the same drive in overtime. We were down 2, and you know, he missed it. He normally would make it. Aaron White misses 2 free throws. We're down 2. And what happened before, the reason he got the 2 free throws is because we ran transition to perfection and got right to the rim. And we had a chance to score right on top of them, which is exactly what you want your team to do. That's a team thing. He just happened to miss 2 free throws. I mean, you go game by game. Oglesby, he's going to make that shot most of the time. Executed that play to perfection. The shot was halfway down. The reason I was upset in the Michigan State game was we didn't execute like I just described and lost. That's when you get upset. And that's when you get disappointed, you know, as a staff, as a team, as an individual. And nobody felt worse than Mike when he turned the ball over in that situation. But he hasn't done that since then. You know, I mean, he made a turnover the other night, but that was a different kind of play. He thought Eric was going to cut to the basket when he drove it and drew the defense. Eric stepped back. He thought Eric was going to step up. That's different than the mistake he made in the Michigan State game.
Coach, against Minnesota and against Wisconsin, finishing the game has definitely been a thing. Is it more execution, or is the youth starting to show late in games a little bit?
The youth's not a problem. You know, I think what you're doing is you're on the road playing against 2 really good teams.
Josh, you talked about getting him more minutes, Fran, and you did in the last couple of games, and he's made some more shots and seemed to be more comfortable out there.
You're absolutely right, and that's the fine line, because when he's out there, then Marble's not. And we got to get Marble going, and he's not going to get going if he's sitting on the bench. You know, so I'm trying to juggle Marble, Oglesby, Clemens, you know, Cassell, and sometimes, you know, I move Eric May back there. I have the luxury to move him up and back. Same thing with Marble. You know, but our big lineup has been playing well. McCabe's been playing well. Kasabi's been playing well. I thought Woodbury was terrific in the last game. Olashany was terrific in the last game. So you're trying to get minutes for everybody and find a team that's clicking. And we found a team that was clicking offensively in the last game. And fine line then is when you're in a tight game and it's right down to the wire, then we tired a little bit. And you know, so if I go back, I said, well, yeah, I probably should have subbed a little bit more to get some fresher bodies out there to keep the break going and keep maybe better defensive pressure on the floor. But then again, you know, we had trouble scoring, so you know, left my team out there that was making baskets. You know, in that case, you know, it was Oglesby, it was May, it was McCabe in particular, Cassell. You know, so that's you know what we're tinkering with.
Going up.
Last year, Matt closed a lot of games for you. It seemed like, is that what you guys are kind of looking for, one player, or does it need to be one? Or
it's nice if it's one. I mean, if you have more than one, that's also nice. But sometimes to have that one guy that you know, because what'll happen is a lot of times you'll get something as a byproduct of everyone paying attention to that guy. In Matt's case, he was able to come through for us and make a lot of late game shots. But it affects everybody else. When you have a guy like that, especially when you come out of a timeout and there's 12 seconds to go, everybody's going to run at him, run to him, trap him, double him, face guard him, which gives everybody else more space to make a play. In our case, I mean, it's nice because you don't really know where we're going to go. We have a number of different options. We just need somebody to go ahead and make a basket in that situation. I thought Josh had it. We've had a number of opportunities with, I mean, I thought, you know, Whitey's steal at N1, I mean, that's a game-winning play. Whitey's steal at Minnesota was a game-winning play. Mike gets hammered on the breakaway. We missed 2 tip-ins. You know, that was frustrating.
Northwestern, typically with its 1-3-1, has been hard to deal with in the past. Do you sense that it's more about control and discipline maybe from your ball handlers against that type
There's
of...
a lot of things. You know, it's spacing, it's who's on the floor, where are they, who's making plays, who's getting tentative, who's not. And ultimately, you got to make a shot. You know, whether it be, you know, a lot of times it's from the perimeter. You know, the perimeter shot. Any team that's in the zone, I'll tell you, look at the perimeter shot. But, you know, we've done a pretty good job. Certainly did a really good job the last time we played. And the time before, we had good stretches and bad. You know, so, I mean, we've seen it enough. And the guys that have been on the floor, they've seen it, they know how they do it, and hopefully we'll do a good job against it.
I think
Northwestern isn't a great rebounding team. Do you see that's an area where maybe you can have some success rebounding, get the transition going?
But yeah, you know, a lot of that is philosophical. You know, they don't, you know, they get their defense back. And that's, you're never going to get a ton of offensive rebounds when you're playing 3 guards and you're not sending everybody to the glass. You know, you play Minnesota, they're sending 4. Northwestern's not going to do that. So you want to run, you want to get out and run, but they typically get their teams back.
Coach, you mentioned scoring baskets with Northwestern. One thing that they seem to do on their offense is they like to hold the ball a little bit longer. They kind of live and die by the 3. So how big is it for you guys to make sure you guys get a bucket, because it looks like they'll use the clock to their advantage?
Yeah, you know, they're going to keep you on defense, but you know, we went against that the other night. Wisconsin does the same thing. You know, they only have 35 seconds, so what you don't want to do is give up a lot of offensive rebounding and have to guard it again for another 35. And they'll get some, even though they don't send 4. You know, they're very smart with how they do it, and they're quick. And you know, a lot of times they're spread at the line, so the guys are getting them are running in from the line. So that will be an important part of the game.
Fran, how do you impart perspective to a group of 18 to 22-year-olds who lately it seems, I mean, it just seems like they cannot catch a break?
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, it seems like the ball has not bounced our way a couple times, and I will say this: I think they have really good perspective. I've been impressed with how they've approached practice, the things they've said to one another, the things they've said to us, the things they've said to you guys. And sometimes you get the feeling they're just saying what they're supposed to say, but I mean, I really think that they believe in themselves, and they believe in what we're capable of doing, and they're remaining confident and realize just how close we are. Obviously, we want to get beyond close, but in many ways, getting close against really good teams, a number of which we're on the road, is a clear step in the right direction, and hopefully we can do it now.
Some coaches talk a lot about season-ending goals, even through a tough stretch. Like, we can still make the tournament, we still got our goals in front of us. Do you talk much about that? You try to keep them narrow?
Yeah, the next game.
Where, as a coach, have you kind of drawn the line between, finding things that could make the difference one way or the other, and then just, as being touched on before, luck and just not having that luck go your way, these last few games in particular?
Yeah, I try not to really get into the luck part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just was kind of agreeing with, boy, yeah, it does seem like the ball has bounced funny a couple times, and I think typically those things even out over time. You would hope that they would have evened out a little bit sooner in this case. So then you go back and say, well, maybe it's not just that. Maybe it's something we're not doing. And, there's no question that we're breaking down every aspect of every situation, late game, who's on the floor, what could we have run differently, what options do we have in that situation. Go back, show the kids the tape. Okay, what options were there that you didn't see that maybe would have made a difference? And your only hope is, especially with when you're playing so many young guys, if they're in that situation again, they'll remember and see it and maybe make a better play.
You think you attacked their 1-3-1 over there as good as you've attacked it for the 3 years you've been here?
Yeah.
Especially at the back of it.
Well, yeah, consistently. We've attacked it really well at times. And I think that's what a lot of teams do. They attack it well at times, and then they struggle for 3, 4, 5 possessions. And sometimes that's all they need. You look at the Minnesota game, for example. Minnesota really struggled against it. They had some great possessions against it, phenomenal possessions. But, they're getting passes deflected, and they were getting tentative, and they were standing around, and they kind of got bunched up. And, I'm fairly certain how their practices went. They prepared to do what they did when they did it well. I remember last year here, we were really playing well against them. They go to the 1-3-1. We turned it over early. The first time we scored, but then we turned it over a couple times and really changed the complexion of that game. And then we went through it pretty easily after that. But it's kind of like the damage was already done. Yeah, we didn't play well against them. Well, we did. For that little stretch of time, we didn't play well, and I think that's what has made it an effective defense for that.
I think last year, as you mentioned, I think you were up by 14 or something at some point in the first half, then turned it over like 8 times out of a 15 possession period.
Sometimes it's not even the turnovers. It's you get a decent shot. It's not a great shot. You don't make it, so you turn it over, and then you don't make it. You don't get a second, and then you come down and you make a bunch of passes and you miss again, or a ball gets deflected. They get a run out. That's really it's exactly what happened in Minnesota. Minnesota was up 7. And they went down 7 or 8, and they missed a ton of free throws. Northwestern, it would have been worse.
I guess looking at a guy like Eric, he had all the injuries through his career, and then this year he seems like he's playing maybe the most consistent basketball of his career. And I guess what has he been able to bring to the team this year on the floor?
Well, exactly what I hoped he would. As a captain, as a senior, multiple position player, knows where to line up in every situation. Can guard a big guy, can guard a small one, and what a lot of guys try to do in that situation is more than they're supposed to do. He does exactly what he's supposed to do. He drives it when we need him to. He scores in transition. He'll shoot a 3 occasionally.